a worship service online, but how do we really do outreach and worship together online and discipleship? And so, that's kind of, in a sense, one of the big questions I'm asking, and always trying to, try things in that space and realm. And something that I know you guys have been doing for a while. And I'm interested to how things shifted for you. You guys, your 2020 hits, you're writing a book, you've got great systems and processes around bringing people out, doing the signing up a guest, great marketing on Facebook. You're writing this book, and then bam, the pandemic hits. I remember reading that in your book as I write this chapter, you know. I said, so let me ask you a question. How did what you did do shift? What got
Yeah.
emphasized and what got de-emphasized?
Yeah. Well, to put this in context for people that are watching or listening, so I run a marketing agency. I own a marketing agency where we're helping churches in across Canada and the U.S. and um, we do digital content as far as helping people make videos and all that stuff. But we also we're helping with what I call funnel ads, which are ads, paid
Mm,
ads, and systems to get people from not like ever having a face-to-face coffee shop. Hi, I'm Pastor Rick. Come to our church. Like, how do you get somebody just from a marketplace standpoint to then go through a process where they
mm,
connect with the church? Now, I intentionally did not write a book that is how to get people saved. Um,
yeah.
because I don't know how to do that. And I don't know if that is in my skill set or experience set, because I believe that the best way to have somebody go through a legitimate, hardcore transformation of
Yeah.
what they believe and their lifestyle is going to be through a local church. Um, and so the whole purpose of this book that I was writing was about all these consultation calls that we do with churches and these ad things. Like, I just wanted to show somebody, like, almost the book is so, I'm glad you read it, but the book is so dry because it almost reads like a manual at some points of like, you click on this button and then, and so I was really showing people what we do and trying to memorialize it in a book so that somebody could repeat it for their church.
Mm,
And I started writing the book in I'd go early in the morning before our workday would start. I would go at a coffee shop and I would, hammer out like a section of the book at a time. And then by the end of the book, I'm sitting in my home office all the time because you're not allowed to go to coffee shops here in California, which you're still not allowed to this
yeah.
day. But the thing that rocked me is when COVID hit, they were saying what was it? It was like 3 weeks to slow the spread, which is hilarious looking back, a year and some later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I kept thinking in my mind, like, this is weird. This is a weird little time in history. I mean, it'll be over soon. And then we go back to it. And it just kept lingering and kept lingering. And it rocked me when I had one church call us to try to hire us to do what I thought was going to be our typical call of how do we, you know, get better media and get better
Mhm.
video, and can you guys help us with this? And he said, we don't want to do, I don't think that we're ever going back. And this was a big church.
Wow.
And I don't think that we're ever going to go back. And so we want you to show us how to and set up our digital church as our church. That's our church now.
Wow.
And I gave him the wrong answer because I wasn't expecting that. We didn't even end up working with him because he didn't like my answer. And I still don't know what my answer is. My answer to him was, I think you're wrong. I
Mm,
said, I don't think you need to do that. I think that we will all go back to something that feels similar to what we had.
mhm.
Um, and to be honest, I still think that. And
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I still think that. Um,
No, I'd agree with you on that point because I think, you even stretch back to the book of Acts. The church is always gathered together. What I think is radically different is how we're gathering. And we've never lived in a time like this where we can do such integrated, in person and digital, and also having to wrestle with the fact, like, I'm in New Jersey, we we've been like the epicenter, one of the hardest hit, the entire pandemic. We've felt the effects of it. And, our church, we didn't do any kind of live gathering till June, end of June, July, and that was outside. Didn't go inside till October. Huge social distancing. I mean, our church is only taken in a fourth of what it could fit in the sanctuary on a good day, and only really a fourth of our normal worship attendance comes in person now. And so I think it's really a question of how do we integrate that, you know and how do we use digital to leverage the fact that maybe some of our experiences are going to be smaller and more intimate. Like, it's going to be a while before you see that big mass gathering all together. And then we're having to do so much on digital. How are we more interactive with it? And then how are we outreach centered with it? And doing that in a way where we're connecting with our people, but we're also connecting with people that wouldn't normally come through the doors of the church, but right now in this time are asking a lot of deep questions they might not have satisfying answers to.
Yeah. Well, the way that I always think about how can us as church leaders do better at connecting people and taking them along the path that we want them to go on is sometimes by modeling what people are doing in the secular world,
Mm,
by modeling what our purchasing behaviors are, our media consumption behaviors. Like, I always try to think of anything that I always start, I try to think of how would I get me. I know that I'm not everybody, but would I even buy this product or watch this video? How would I get me?
yeah.
And so then I start to think, okay, so the new world is 2021. What do I do? Well, more and more and more and more, I buy everything online. Everything. Um, my wife wants me to put up some shelves in this closet. Okay, that we in our house, there's a closet we don't really use, and she wants me to put these shelves in. Last night, I'm on my phone, and I'm looking on Amazon to find some 3 foot by 2 foot wood planks and some
Mm,
brackets so I can put in. She's like, why don't you go to Home Depot? And I'm like, I don't want to go to Home Depot. I would rather just push this button on my phone and wait 2 days for it to come. I don't know
yeah.
why. I just don't want to. And everything that every new thing that I sign up for or buy, it all starts on my phone or my computer. It all
Mm,
starts. And I know that's not new. I don't think COVID really changed. I know this is not going to make sense, but
mm,
I don't think that COVID really changed that much about um, new people making the decision to follow Christ. It
yeah.
changed a lot for how we, as
Mm,
believers, what we do on Sundays. I know that,
yeah.
but it didn't change a ton. It actually just intensified and brought to our attention
Mhm.
the way that somebody's going to make a decision to go to the Lord. And I'm talking in very general terms. I know this is not for everybody, but I'm really feel blessed that this book that I wrote came out during this time because it talks about how somebody would go through social media and Google and a website to then make a decision. Am I going to try this church out or not?
Mhm.
Um, and that was before COVID that I believe that. And now it just intensified what's
Yeah.
already there. Somebody that is interested in they're maybe not even to the point where they're interested in praying the Lord's Prayer and getting saved. They're not there, but they are intrigued enough to learn more. That person, their first move is not to show up to church on Sunday or to watch your live stream. That is like
Yeah.
move five.
Yeah.
And people are all obsessed with getting from 0 to move 5. And that's their only thought process. It's like the guy who's wanting to, if you're a real estate agent and you want to get somebody to list their home with
Mhm.
you, the people that fail in that industry, all they do is send out mailers or list your house with me today, list your house with me today. And they may get like the most fraction of the success rate. And to scale that, they're like, for every 3,500 mailers I send, I'm going to get one person to call me back. So I guess that means I need to send 1 million mailers. And it's just like a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
And they do that
Yeah.
because it works, because they're only obsessed with that one call to
Mhm.
action. But the people that win, they're more obsessed from getting people to go to step one, to step two, to step three, to step four, to step five. Step one is just to know my name and to not
Mhm.
feel like salesy, sleazed out by it.
Yeah.
Step two is for them to be interested in this article I wrote about why home values are increasing in my area.
Mhm.
And then to just read my article. Step three is to watch this video about why we're the best. And they take them on this process. As church leaders, we're just too obsessed with this one thing that it's all we've known is come on Sunday.
Mhm.
Please freaking come on Sunday. I'm begging you to just come. And that's all we care about. And then we start thinking, well, I'm going to run 1 million Facebook ads, or I'm going to send a
Yeah.
mailer every Easter because I know I get this fraction of a percentage of people to come. And
Mhm.
that's all I'm obsessed with. And the churches like you, Matt, that were
Mhm.
already in this mindset, they were like, I'm going to just worry about taking them from here to step one. And step one is going to be to see a Facebook post or ad that's a 30-second
Mhm.
clip of me just encouraging them during this COVID season that there's not hope or whatever. And maybe step two is that we want to give away, some stuff to families in need this Christmas and join
Yeah.
with our ministry or what. And you take them on this journey, and I call it a funnel, where they start from being like not really that
Mhm.
comfortable even thinking about your church to like a little bit more. I like these guys. Maybe I could receive from these guys. And then they show up. Now, right now,
Mhm.
show up looks like a live stream and maybe a connect card and maybe a Zoom
Mhm.
small group. I don't know. We're all making it up as we go.
Yeah.
But I believe in my heart that eventually that step five is still going to be come in person and build relationships.
Well,
What do you think?
and I think you're right. I think at some point there's this tangible connection between the person and a mature believer in Christ. So that's at times been the local church where we come out, we come to worship experience, we hear preaching, we hear teaching, we do all that kind of stuff. I think too, what I'm learning especially is going through those steps and those processes, but then sometimes what that is maybe it's somebody else in your church that's now physically connecting with that person and walking them through a discipleship process. I think that's also a huge part of it. But I think you hit the nail on the head. And that's the sense of, I'd put it like this: we don't think why principles, or we don't think first article principles. What we think is, this is the box that was built, and this is where I connected with faith. So if you got a problem with the box, you got a problem with faith. That's not the case. The gospel is unchanging, but the world is, constantly in flux and change. So how do we translate the unchanging gospel to an ever-changing world? Well, we start with those first article principles, like how we're created. Because somebody here in the chat, we've gotten some great stuff coming in. Somebody said, it's studies say millennials don't care about face-to-face contacts to purchase anything. Is that true? And how does that affect the church? Well, yeah, I think we research a lot more stuff online. Like I'm like you. Like I'd rather click the button and wait a couple of days because I know it's going to come to the door. I know I get to research it. I know I'm going to find the best price. But translate that to church and to faith. If I'm exploring those deeper issues of faith, I'm not talking about buying a shelf for my closet. But if I'm exploring those deeper issues of faith, yeah, I do want to build a little bit of a relationship and to dig in a little more. And what's so cool about the way that you all do things, and the principles you talk about, and somebody else asked this question, is the funnel, is the title of Ross's book, 10 Secrets of Extraordinary Church Growth. And it's really great. It lays out a lot of what we're talking about here today. But, in a sense, you're able to walk people through those spiritual questions. And the more we interact like this digitally, even if it's just somebody seeing you, the more relationship is built. And so when they are at a point where they're ready to make that face-to-face interaction, just like the real estate example, they're going to go with the person they feel like they know and trust and has already been pouring into them. And so in a sense, what you're doing is you're walking out a process where that person or that organization is the church. and and then people feel more apt to connect with the church because of the relationship that's been built kind of along the way.
Yeah. Uh, there's something to take into consideration that's hard for
Mhm.
a lot of mostly lead pastors. There is a personality type that is most drawn uh, towards being a lead pastor, or chicken and the egg. Maybe God called them to that and he made them that way,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
the personality types, in my experience, that are lead pastors are um, social, sometimes social, but they communicate verbally. They love and enjoy gatherings. They love and enjoy what we know
Mhm.
of as the church experience on Sunday. And what happens is, and it's natural, but there's an assumption that the people that you're trying to reach communicate and enjoy in the same way that you do. And
Um,
I have a unique perspective because I am not a pastor, I'm a marketing guy. And I am not a super social guy. I am borderline antisocial. I like being at home. I like working from home. I like hanging out with my wife and kids. And my activity of choice is to play golf, generally by myself. That's my preference in life. Um, and I think that I'm not one in a million. I think that
mhm.
not everybody's antisocial, but there are a larger, I believe, portion of people like
Mhm.
me than there are like senior pastors that are very charismatic and let's go and let's get together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different type of personalities out there, but I think sometimes we build the church experience a little bit more tailored towards those
Mhm.
people that love
Yeah.
that. Um, I know for myself, the people that I um, learn from and receive from both in the secular world and business type stuff and in church and leadership, most of them I've never met.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a weird thing because you've got to make, if you're in the position where you're trying to reach people for the Lord, and that's what God's called you to, then you have to realize that that may not be reach people for um, Sunday morning, at least at the
Mhm.
beginning.
Yeah.
Now, now, church, what I believe is happening is for mature believers, a lot of people go to church on Sunday, not as much because that's where they're going to get spiritually fed, and it's more because that is where the relationships are. That's
Yeah.
where their kids have friends and they have family friends and they want to cultivate the sweetness of church. For a lot of mature believers is in the cultivating of those deep
Mhm.
relationships, and I think that's normal. And I
Yeah.
think that um, a lot of mature believers then are self feeders. They
Mhm.
spiritually, they're listening to podcasts from people that they're receiving from, and they're doing their devotions, and their source isn't necessarily Sunday morning. The motivation for coming on Sundays is different. It's those relationships, and I think that that's okay. I think that's normal. I
Yeah.
think that's healthy. And so because of that, I think we've got to realize that we could maybe do church a little bit differently.
Mhm.
It isn't about um, the lights and the big crowd all the time. A lot of times it's about getting people that are new to the Lord to experience that for the first time.
Mhm.
And then we need to provide resources to get those people who are self-feeding, and we need to start providing stuff for them too, and not
Yeah.
just all be about Sunday. We need to,
Yeah.
whether that's um, it doesn't have to be Zoom classes, or whether that's video training that you're taking people
Mhm.
through the book of Acts, or maybe you're doing a series that you teach on Sundays, but then there's videos that you're doing that's released, on a MailChimp email that's, people can log in and subscribe and they can go deeper Monday through
Yeah.
Saturday on their own. And
Mhm.
Sundays you're coming because you want to build those relationships. That might be whack, but it's about
No.
rethinking
Yeah.
what Sundays are about. What do you think
That's
about that?
I think that's huge. And it's a perfect lead into a couple of these questions we're getting popping in. Matthew Hilpert asked, with Zoom fatigue and the exhaustion of virtual learning, how do we use our technology to connect with people when they don't want to do another virtual meeting? And I think you unpacked it beautifully. It's like providing different ways for them to connect. you know Maybe it's not the virtual meeting, maybe it's, maybe you're using your technology to connect smaller groups of people together, or maybe, hey, who knows, maybe a paper resource. It's crazy. But what are your thoughts on that and on that idea of Zoom fatigue?
Well, first off, I'm guessing you picked his question because his name was Matthew. There's probably a lot of other questions.
True.
I'm a dad. I've
I'll
got
pick a
dad
I'll
jokes.
pick a David next, but we're gonna start with the Matthew every time,
Uh, here is something that is booming in the secular world. Okay, so I own a publishing company, and we're a newer publishing company, and everybody that is an established author, they talk about the fact that you don't make money really off of your books unless you're some huge famous author. Like selling books doesn't provide any sort of really great income.
Mhm.
What they do it for is the upsell, the response to that book. So uh, there's the business guy who wrote the I forget his name. He's the guy who he wrote something about the brand and the story brand, whatever his name, Donald Miller.
Donald
That's
Miller,
it.
yeah.
And yeah, and so Donald Miller writes a book, and he'll make a lot of money because he's popular now. But initially, it was, if you want to go deeper, sign up for this course. And you go and you can sign up for a course that goes really deep, and it's all
Mhm.
video, and you can take it and you can really teach yourself and learn. And everybody out there in the secular world, when they write a book, they have a course or something that you can do to go deeper. And it's almost never Zoom.
Mhm.
It's almost never like an actual face to face, unless you're trying to sell consultation services or coaching or something like that.
Yeah.
Usually it's a course or an email or something that you can sign up for to go deeper. And so for churches, I don't see that happening almost ever.
Mhm.
I don't see people saying, you don't necessarily write a book, but you oftentimes will say, we're going to do a series on marriage. And I am Pastor Matthew Peoples, and I am doing this series. It's the month of February, and we're going to talk about marriage. And we're going to do 6 series. And by the way, we're going to touch on it on Sunday. But I've got some really deep stuff that you guys can sign up for. It's free. You just go onto our website, sign up, and every Tuesday and Thursday, we release a new video, and I'm going deep. And if you don't want to go that deep, that's fine. Next month, we're doing a new series on this. But you can give somebody something that doesn't have to
Yeah.
be Zoom meetings, but if they want to, they can go deeper.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I love that. And that kind of leads into David's question. Like, what do you think is the most helpful kind of content on your church webpage to promote the funnel, to help people do what you're talking about, go deeper? Um, yeah.
Well, the funnel, when I talk about the funnel, I'm talking about taking somebody who um, has not yet decided that they want to give their life to Christ, to go through a set of systems and to make that decision at the end, or maybe just to get connected with the church. That's the person that I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of the
Mhm.
funnel. So for your website, to answer your question, I believe website is usually step two. It's like social media,
Yeah.
website, um, and then some sort of interaction. Right now, it's going to be digital, but it's the interaction, whether it's in person
Mhm.
or digital, to me is equally as valuable. And so, usually, that would mean the call to action page on the
Mhm.
website would be the one.
Yeah.
We do so many church websites, it makes my eyes bleed, and we see the statistics of what pages they visit, and I always am surprised that over 80% of the time they never leave the homepage.
Wow.
And so what does that mean? I'm always kind of surprised by that. And that's not taking into consideration bounce rate. We're talking about they come from an ad and they check out what they need to, and they're on there for 9 seconds and they leave. And that's not a
Mhm.
fail that like they weren't interested. They
Yeah.
got the first impression and they left. So that means you kind of want to dedicate the homepage of your church's website to primarily be speaking to that person that's on the journey of the funnel. So
Mm.
you want to have that top of your website talking about maybe like an intriguing headline before the fold, they call it in the industry, like, you
Yeah.
know, we're a church for imperfect people, whatever your intriguing
Yeah.
tagline is. And then you want to have a primary call to action and a secondary call to action. And the primary is usually a big old bold button.
Hmm.
It can be pretty, but it's like clearly the thing that's the primary. And then the second one's like a sub link. Like if you were on an e-commerce website, it'd be like buy now or subscribe to newsletter, like kind of the
Yeah.
secondary one, right?
Yeah.
So you want it to be like connect card, um, join a small group, or something. You want the user to right away know what they're supposed to do,
Yeah.
what you want them to do. So I would say the most important page is going to be that home page, but that's tied into whatever the call to action is.
Hmm.
What we have found, which surprised me, is I hate saying this because I hate them so much, but pop-ups work great. Um, I hate them so much,
Yes.
but they
Yes.
work. So so check this out. We would always, on every church website we build, we always make a digital connect card page, because
Mhm.
every church, on Sunday, like, hey, if you're new, visit, newlife.org/ whatever, connect. And you would get marginal success on those connect cards. But then we did a church website that, as soon as you would visit the website, a pop-up would come, and it made me just die on the inside the first time I saw it. And it would have the connect card, and you can X out of it and continue.
Yeah.
And it was more
Wow.
than 10 times the connect cards that they would get from that pop-up. And came back to me realizing they never leave the homepage.
Yeah.
And if they're interested at all, having like a clean little pop-up that's the connect card right now, especially in COVID,
Mhm.
that's all you can do. And then you could follow up however your church does. If that is, an email that invites them to join live stream, if that's something that invites you to come to your in-person, whatever. But that call to action, that connect card is huge.
That's, it's huge you say that, because John Carl here posted, in his experience, especially with college students, he's learning that, yeah, we might purchase things for click, but we're really looking forward to that face-to-face interaction in the classroom and socially. And then, especially with that connect card concept, you know, at some point, whatever digital process we have in place needs to lead to a really strong, tangible personal connection with somebody. Something that's not just automated. I think I want to get your thoughts on this. I think the automation is great for keeping something in front of somebody so that you're thinking about them, they're top of mind, that kind of thing. But where it's really going to go deep, where it's really going to make a connection, is when somebody makes that dynamic personal interaction. And so
Yeah.
somebody was asking, you talked about different steps. He said, what are the 5 steps? I think you maybe said 5. What are the 5 steps in your funnel process? And is that ultimately what they're leading to, is that personal, interaction and connection?
Uh, I said five as an example. I don't have five in the funnel. In fact, there's really just three in the funnel. And when we talk about the funnel per the book, we're talking about three, like a cone, right? Three layers: the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the conversion, the bottom of the
Yeah.
funnel. So we really only have three steps that we think of, but there's a lot of sub steps within each. It's not complicated. It sounds like it is based on what I'm saying, but the the top of funnel for a church is first impressions. So I talked about a real estate agent making the mistake of just doing an ask. Let me list my house with you. Let me list my house with you. It has very low success rates. The top of the funnel, you have no intention of asking anybody to do anything.
Yeah.
You just want them to see your brand, your church
Mhm.
name,
Yeah.
and to feel good about it. And there's a goal in this, and people get so mad at me because it is taking actual sales uh, strategies, and you sometimes the only words that I know is sales words, so it sounds like I'm being sleazy. I'm not. I'm just trying to take what we know about the human brain decision making process. Am I still there?
Yeah.
I went
Still
black
here.
for a second.
Still here. Yeah.
What we know about the human brain decision making process, and putting that to work for somebody who's considering
Mhm.
on the Lord. So um, we do a first impression at the top of the funnel, which is something that they like or receive from or
Mhm.
adds value to them and does not ask them for anything. That could be something. We talked about marriage. It could be some sort of tip, a blog that you wrote, a little
Mhm.
video, something encouraging on how to better your marriage or how to have good relationship. You don't say come on Sunday, donate to us. You don't say any of that crap. You just encourage them,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so the next time they see something from New Life Church or whatever your church's name is, they've already feel like, I like those guys. Maybe what is this? Oh, they're
Yeah.
having a special retreat for or some sort of ask.
Yeah.
And then you can do it on Facebook and Instagram and Google, where you only show ads to people who have taken a previous action.
Mhm.
And that's how you can make sure that people are getting the right first impression.
Yeah.
They're and if they watch that video that was the top of the funnel, that triggers them to be in what's called a retargeting audience on Instagram and Facebook, and you can do it on Google. And and so then the next time they see an ad from New Life Church, it's, hey, I'm Pastor Matthew Peoples, and I want to invite you. We're going deep on how to better your marriage this weekend. And we're meeting online and in person. So whatever works for you. And if you even want to go deeper, we have an online class
Yeah.
that I'm giving you 9 steps to save your marriage, and it's free. I just want to encourage you. And so sign up here on this button, and you ask them to do something at that point, which again, we're trying to just get them to connect with the Lord, but you're asking them to take an
Right.
action. And then the conversion is once somebody has taken that action, whether it's a landing page or whatever, you've now got their contact information. And at that point, that's where you get to see them
Yeah.
face to face. Does that make sense? Am I saying it
It
well?
does, and, I think it's huge, and to kinda, like, subside people's fears when when we have to use things like business language and marketing language. I know sometimes we get a little, little eerie about that. What we're not saying is change the gospel. No, the gospel's the gospel. That's what transforms people. I think what marketers do really well and have done really well that we haven't done as well in the church is they dump a ton of money and research and resources into understanding first article principles about how we are wired as people and how we tend to function as people. And, when we take time to study that and learn that, we're able to communicate the gospel in the culture that is, and so when we talk about shopping habits and clicking habits and how much time somebody spends on one homepage and what they're most likely to click on, we're not talking about moving away from scripture and the truths that scripture has, because that's the meat. If at the end of the day, your funnel process leads to a better coffee cup, great. That's not going to help me in the long term. But if it leads to getting to know and understand and hear Jesus better, then it's a huge win. And so I think it's incredible. It makes total sense to me. And I think too, you dig really well into those principles in the book. So being able to like dig even deeper in there, you guys are going to find a lot of great stuff to DIY what Ross is talking about. But I think Joshua Miller asks a great question that I'd love to bring up. He says, what churches, because you guys work with a ton of churches. So what churches do you recommend checking out best practices for online, whether it's stream quality, innovation, funnel process, and maybe, what are some of those churches and, do they vary in size? Like, do you have smaller churches that you're like, hey, they do a really good job with that. Check it out. So what are the best? And then what are maybe even some that are smaller budgets, but doing it really well?
Well, um, it's a tough one to answer because in the specific topic of funnel ads, they're location specific.
Mm,
So one of my favorite churches that we worked with way early on is a church called Radiant Church in Tampa, Florida.
yeah.
And they when we originally built their website, and we were doing some graphics and everything for them, they were um, the ninth fastest growing church in America, and everything was going so well. We had the Google Grant set up, and I don't take credit for their growth in any way. I'm just saying that they did it really
Yeah.
well. And I have found that I'm not a part of ARC, but I love the Association of Related Churches because we work with so many ARC churches, and I love Dino Rizzo, and he did the foreword on the book, and the churches that are um, thriving that came out of ARC seem to do it really, really well.
Mhm.
And we've had some churches that are very, very tiny, even pre-launch, um, that set up funnel ads for, like, they call them the meetups and the interest parties and stuff. And then you have launch Sunday, and then you follow up with mailers and stuff like that. So I think um, Radiant Church in Tampa, Florida, is they just do a phenomenal job.
Mhm.
When you look at the type of content that they post on social, it's always give, 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 give. Unless you live within 30-ish miles of that radius, you're not going to see a lot of their funnel ads,
Yeah.
because that's going to be location specific. But
Mhm.
as far as content and the way their website is laid out, I really, really like those guys. Um, we do a lot of work with Rich Wilkerson Senior down in Miami, Florida, and I really like the stuff that they do. The way that they are constantly on screen,
Mhm.
encouraging. They're very, very comfortable. They're an older couple, but they're very, very comfortable getting in front of Instagram and just talking and encouraging people to come to this and come to this. And I think that they do a really, really great job with that. Um, and there's so many that I could mention, but the problem is that the ads themselves are so
Mhm.
location specific that you won't be
Yeah.
able to go and, like, see those for yourself.
Yeah. No, and I think it's really good. I think you've also, we've got past webinars if you guys like dig in where we've talked with Ross and really dug into how you can even do some of that give free first and then, do some of the more specific stuff in retargets. But, bringing up retargets, and this is something I just found out recently, but maybe you can give us some more insight to this because you're in this world 24/7. Can your church retarget as a church? Because Google, because of privacy issues, has stopped letting people retarget, and people are wondering, hey, is Facebook and Instagram going to kind of follow suit?
Well, the I think what you're referencing is a big change that came up recently, and it's specifically connected to Apple devices.
Mm,
And what the change is that because of privacy reasons, when you visit a website on a Apple mobile device, they are currently blocking the Facebook pixel.
mm,
And the way that you retarget via Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, is you install this pixel. It's a tracking code on your website. And then when somebody goes to that website, they are if they're on a device that's logged into Instagram and Facebook, they get automatically placed into a custom audience, which you can
mm,
show a set of ads to. Um, I have seen Apple and Facebook change their privacy settings 20 times over the last 5 years,
yeah,
and people freak out every single time, and ask me questions like, "What do we?" So now digital marketing is done. Um, and here's what happens over and over and over again: is it always works itself out, and it goes back to the exact same way it was. All the money from Facebook comes from digital marketers and from people paying for ads. And so I have not seen any effect on all the ads. We're running probably $15,000 a month of ads for different people. And I have not seen any difference. And I think the reason is because Facebook smartly, probably in thinking about this ahead of time, they changed their retargeting from just being people who hit the pixel to
mhm,
also being people who engaged in any way with any post, ad, or
mm,
content on Instagram or Facebook. So it's almost like the belt and suspenders route, like you're doubling up if you're requiring only them to hit Facebook pixel, because if somebody clicks the button on the Facebook ad to visit your website, just by clicking the button, they interacted with your ad. So they
mm,
still get put in that
yeah,
custom audience. So I haven't seen any effect. Now, I have never deeply used Google for retargeting
mhm,
because Google doesn't have um, the same kind of retargeting that Facebook and Instagram has. It's only based on the tracking code.
yeah,
But most people are not showing retargeting ads on Google. They're showing their retargeting ads on social media. So you may have come from Google, but if you go on the website and you hit the Facebook pixel, Google is not blocking that. They're
Mhm.
they're 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 not allowing you to show retargeting ads on Google, as far as I know, but nobody does that anyway. They all do it on
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram, so it's not a major issue.
Yeah, no, that's a huge help. And I think just, getting out there is huge. I've got one last question for you before we dig into. I want to let people know how they can find you, how they can interact, and especially you guys you build incredible websites, and run some incredible campaigns. So there's no reason, if you're watching this, Ross I found is really easy to connect with. His company's really easy to connect with. So if you're like, hey, we just want somebody to help us do it, definitely reach out to him and the Vibrant Agency. They're phenomenal. His book is really good. Not just the cover page, because we need to get more redheads out there, but the
I'm not a
actual
redhead.
content is
Come
incredible.
on, you're a redhead. I am not
Hey,
a redhead.
I'm coloring
I'm a
everybody as a ginger right here, you know? Uh, so I'm loving it. But yeah, so I think here's kind of my question. Talk to us, paid versus organic. Like, what's the best route, or how do you balance the two? And where should you be investing your most time and energy in?
okay. So I'm going to give you kind of a two-part answer. Paid ads, you need to mostly always be doing those as dark posts. And what that means is it's not you first go to your Instagram and make a picture and a caption that is inviting people to church, and then you go and you promote that post.
Mhm.
That's not the way to do it,
Right.
because most of the time you want those ask ads to only be shown to people after they've taken a different step, right? They first
Mhm.
watch something and then you show them this. So the way you do it is you go through the whole system of making an ad, and you get to the last step, and then instead of saying select an already existing ad to promote, you create the ad or the post within ads manager, so it never shows up on your Instagram feed like a normal post.
Mm.
It's only shown as an ad. That's what a dark post means. It's
Mm.
only shown like all of the ads anybody ever sees for Vibrant Agency or Salty Publishing Company or anything else. Those are not posts that you can find anywhere. They are just ads. And so the normal flow that I believe somebody goes through if they're being introduced to a church for the first time is they see an ad that's the top of the funnel. It's something like a video that you're doing to encourage somebody. Fine. If you want that on your feed,
Mhm.
great. I think that that goes well with it. But if they're intrigued to find out more, they're just going to click on your profile, and they're going to go over, they're going to look at your vibe on Instagram. And I'm constantly surprised at how quickly people can get their impression. They're not like clicking on a lot of things and watching a bunch of videos and reading the caption. They're just doing a quick scroll. And so knowing that, I think that your Instagram feed should really be very all about feel. Mostly photos. Make sure it's all in your brand.
Mm.
Make sure it's all got like the smiling faces, that it really just within like 5 seconds, they know like, oh, these are my people, or, these are not.
Mhm.
So I really worry less about how often you're posting your organic content.
Mhm.
Is it once a day? Is it 3 times a week? In the terms of reaching new people, I don't think it matters that much. How much if you post the most witty, creative, funny, perfectly everything photo, and you post on Facebook and Instagram today, not even all of the people that follow you are going to see that page, but certainly not somebody who doesn't follow you.
Yeah.
Like only the people that all follow you on Instagram even have a chance of seeing that post. So that's not going to reach anybody. And don't start talking to me about hashtagging random things. People are not sitting there searching
Yeah.
hashtags all day long. Um, so ads are really the only realistic way to use social media to reach a new
Mm.
person, because then you can make that ad be shown to people who don't already follow you on Instagram. So I think people obsess way too much about the organic
Mm.
content if they think that that's a tool to reach new people.
Yeah.
People are gonna
So
get mad at me
you
for
you
saying
would
that.
say think think organic content for people that are kind of trying to discover more of who you are, maybe some of your existing people that would naturally follow your stuff, so it's gonna pop up first for them, that kind of thing, and then where you're really gonna see the meat on outreach is gonna come through your paid advertising?
Yes, when we're
Mhm,
talking in terms of reaching new people for the first time, ongoing social content is a really great way to build FOMO,
mhm,
fear of missing out, FOMO. You want people that kind of started to slip away and get disengaged in the church to see all these great photos of what just happened on Sunday, and maybe it's Saturday, and you're
mm,
talking about like get them re-engaged.
yeah,
It's to keep that relationship going once it's already been established. It's very good at that.
mm,
It's very bad at getting people for the first time.
mm. That's huge. Man, this has, been just incredibly helpful. Last question as we go out, I've heard the pushback that paid advertising is not a great way to reach people out of the church, that you're mostly just gonna connect people that already care about Jesus or church or faith in general. What's your impression of that, or what's your response kinda to that?
Well, I don't know who would ever say that because you can reach. I could do a an Instagram ad and do no filtering on my audience and just show it to everybody within a 10-mile radius of
Mhm,
where I live here in California. And that would be everybody. It might show it to more and more people, like the number of people who are liking and commenting, it might start to um, give preference to other people that are like-minded, but we're talking about a slight,
mhm,
difference in variable. It's not your organic content probably will because it's only showing to people who already follow you, but
right,
paid ads reach everybody. Um, it's just like if I were to start a coffee shop and I did a post offering a $10 gift card drawing that we're doing, and I wanted to show it to everybody within a 10-mile radius, it's going to pretty much show it that ad to
mm,
everybody in a 10-mile radius. The name of the game isn't worrying about is my ad only being shown to people who like my thing.
mhm,
It's about is my ad effective.
mm,
And I think most people that complain, they're not doing a good job. They're thinking that just by paying $500 on this ad should have worked better, and it didn't. So it must be because Facebook screwed me and only showed it to the wrong people. First off, I really want everybody to know this. I'm not Mr. Facebook Instagram ads guy. That's not what I am. But I am saying that if your church has a legitimate passion and calling to reach new people, then the most effective way to do that
mm,
right now is through digital marketing and a funnel. Now, the thing that we want them to do is get connected to church and then have life change. But to get them there, a lot of times they're going to go through a couple steps before they just show up. And you want
yeah,
to get those steps right to be effective, to be faithful with the money that you're spending on marketing.
yeah,
Here's the deal: studies have shown that it takes at least 7 impressions before somebody makes that decision. So the purpose of me saying that is your $500 ad, if you get lucky, you might get somebody to come to church or do a connect
mhm,
card. The people who win have just made an inside decision that we are spending $500 per month forever.
mm,
And and if I have a month where I get 10 people to connect with us and we saw some amazing life change and we're crying tears of joy, that was a good month, but that's probably not the norm. Those months and 2 month stretches where we got nobody and we feel like we wasted those $500 each month, those are not wasted because the people are still percolating
mhm,
and they're coming. And that celebration month will come again, but you can't stop.
right,
You just can't stop. You have to
mm,
have it be a part of your ministry, and you can't do crappy ads. You have to do ones that are smart. You're thinking, okay, is this a good way to do a first impression? Is this a cheesy infographic that doesn't represent us well? Is this done with excellence? And have we shown the same ad Too many times have we been doing it for a month and everybody's seen that ad 32 times. It's time to switch it up. You got to make it an active part of if it was your livelihood and you owned a coffee shop and your livelihood depended on new customers, you would have a little bit of like urgency and care about the marketing that you did. I feel like we should have that same way as representatives of the Lord, like trying to introduce people. You got to do it with a sense of excellence, a sense of care. And my motive isn't, hey, your church should have 5,000 people every Sunday. I mean, that might be it, but I think that in today's day and age, you should start seeing digital connect cards, and you should start seeing DMs on social media, and you should start seeing more and more people watching your live stream,
Yeah.
and you should make something for people Monday through Saturday that they can go deeper with you on, and you should start seeing increases there.
Mm.
And that will eventually turn into more people in the seats. And by the way, one new family that you get from a funnel ad that went right, their life got changed, and it's amazing. They have friends, and they might invite their friends. It snowballs on itself. It's
Yeah.
totally worth it if you just commit yourself to doing it.
That's huge. Ross, man, thank you so much for taking the time for sharing what is quite honestly years of, hard fought wisdom and insights that you've gained. Thanks for sharing that with us. I want to encourage you guys, definitely check out Ross's book, check out the stuff that they do online. They do it really, really well. If you get a chance to work with them, you'll love it. And then also, I want to encourage you guys, we're going to spend some more time at the beginning of this year talking communications, because I know communications has become even more vital for your church than it was before. So next week, Thursday, 1 week from today, 1 p.m., we're going to be talking to Meredith from a national office, Seth Hins, who's the communications director at church, and Emily Finke, who is communications director at The Point. We're going to be talking 2021 best practices for church communication, and they're just going to keep building on this incredible foundation that Ross has given us. So Ross, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, thank you for taking the time to be here on the webinar.